Hi, I'm Lindsay, host of the Live Like Eden podcast. What do you do when your whole life flips upside down? Are you questioning everything, lost in chaos, or yearning for life's deeper meaning? I've been there, deep in the thick of it, unraveling my own awakening mess for over 20 years. Now I'm here to help you through yours. I share no-nonsense weekly wake-ups, cutting through the ego's illusions to wake you up to your own spiritual wisdom. No mountaintop bliss needed here, just practical tools, insights, and real-life experience to save you time. Plus, a much-needed laugh when we're all losing it. Let's dive into this fresh new episode. When I sit down to record a show, I love to be in a very quiet place where there's no noise, and I'm always laughing when I sit down and I hear the commercial lawnmowers in my neighborhood decided today at this time that I'm sitting down to start mowing the common areas of the neighborhood. So if you hear in the background some loud buzzing, I'm really sorry. I'll try to do the best that I can to get it out of here, but it's always something, isn't it? Speaking of always something, this weekend, I went to a local coffee shop with my husband and 3 of our kids, and I was like, oh yeah, let's go get a coffee. And as we approach the coffee house, I look up and a gigantic crow, one of the biggest crows I've ever seen, is just perched on top of this awning. And I mentioned it to my family, man, that's a huge crow. And as I proceed to walk right below this bird, all of a sudden I feel this splatter of liquid all over my right foot. And I looked down, and this gigantic bird decided to take a huge crap all over my foot. And of course, I'm wearing sandals, No, I didn't wear tennis shoes. I had to wear sandals, and now it's just in my toes and all over my shoe. I couldn't stop laughing. I thought, it's always something. So if any of you ever run into this stuff in your life where you think everything's going well and then wham. And here I thought I was going to sit down with my family and romanticize over some deep conversation we're going to have in the coffee shop, when in reality, they're all just going to look right at their phones and I'm going to be in my own fantasy world. For those of you that listened to the last episode about sanitariums of the past and how you can create your own health oasis and really your own lifestyle, right? This is a lifestyle that you implement every single day. I want to take this a little bit deeper. If you feel inspired and you've created a space for feeling that serenity or calm or peace or vibrance or whatever it is that brings you joy, to maybe create this space also for a place you can go as a symbol to let go of everything of the world and connect to spirit. And I'm dying to get into this today because I see so many teachings of the world, most major religions, even spiritual teachings, and even in science, where there's always the end game of bringing God to the world, that God somehow created the world. And this is just really an assumption, right? I mean, we don't really know. I leave it open to, we don't know. We don't really know. And when you look at it from this perspective, you're going to constantly be bringing the reality of God into the world to justify everything. And I'm going to use A Course in Miracles today, which is really one of the only teachings out there saying the exact opposite. I've said it many times, but I'll say it again today. The Course is actually teaching that there is only one reality, and that is God. Nothing else outside of that exists, which means this whole world is not really what we think it is. So today I want to talk about liberation and bringing illusions, meaning the illusory world, everything within it, to truth or to God or to reality. Because the tendency in most spiritual paths is to bring God and heaven into the world. That somehow we can recreate a perfect world in this world that seems so nutty, right? It seems totally insane when you really look at it. So we'll focus today on, as you wake up from many things in the world and you keep going with it, and the undoing process occurs, the undoing of the ego thought system, the undoing of your identity, of all the special relationships that we believe we're having, as all of this starts to leave us, meaning we lose our belief in it, we're returning home, right? It's sort of this baby steps, spiral staircase process. It's very slow. What I want to ask you right now is, what is everybody looking for in the world? Like, we think we're looking for a job, or we're looking for more money, or we're looking for the perfect relationship. We're looking for peace on earth. We're looking for, wars to end and all this stuff. But that's a cover story, right? What are we really looking for? A Course in Miracles sums it up beautifully by saying we're really just looking to free ourselves from the prison that we've created in a world that we believe to be real. What's kind of liberating about that whole thing is, if A Course in Miracles is accurate, that nothing can really be threatened in reality, meaning our true home has never been harmed or threatened, then that should make us feel good, right? It shouldn't be like, oh, that means this world is nothing. If this world is nothing, it seems there must be something so much better than what we're living in. And that's how I want to frame this today, is to get you to see, as devastating as it can be to start waking up, because it can be. The ego is going to go through that ego death spiral, right? You're going to have a lot of emotion about it. You're going to want to hold on and resist the whole process. And this is normal. It's really normal because we've been believing in this. But as you get deeper and deeper and start to understand that there must be more, there must be something so much better and so much more loving than where we're living, your mind begins to open and you'll start to bring those illusions to the truth instead of vice versa, where we're trying to bring God and the truth into the world. I have to ask you this because as a young child, I was one of those kids that always questioned everything about religion. I questioned it so much that the people teaching me in the Catholic faith did not like my questions, and I never got a valid answer. I never got an answer that made any sense to me. And I would always just, say, well, why is this way? That doesn't make any sense. And this is just me thinking here, but it doesn't make any sense to me that a all-loving, all-knowing, beautiful God would create a world full of duality and division and conflict and then say, well, you have free will, and then watch everybody kill each other. Like, it just doesn't add up to me. That answer has never been satisfactory to me. Now, maybe it's satisfactory to some people. The other thing that doesn't add up to me is then, I sought out spirituality and got into the New Age realm. And then you get into that whole thing in the world of consciousness and metaphysics. There's an understanding in those teachings that we are consciousness. We are this vast field of awareness. And consciousness continues to experience itself over and over and over again via reincarnation. You come back and do something else. You reincarnate as another person, a body, and you replay the whole scenario over and over and over. To be honest, that doesn't satisfy me either. That does not satisfy my question of, well, how does that make sense? That makes no sense. Why would something that is eternally perfect, whole, and one need to experience anything? And the key word there is experience. Why would it need experience if it's already whole? And that leads me to A Course in Miracles. And I'm going to use A Course in Miracles today to break down this show. And we're going to talk about how we can bring illusions to truth. But first, in order to do that, we have to go over how the world does exactly the opposite, which is what I've just been saying. That the world is constantly bringing truth to the illusion. So the hourglass is getting flipped upside down all the time, and it's being reinforced. And I want to get into this. But before I get into how this is reinforced and how we get so rooted in the belief system of the world, I want to read the introduction of A Course in Miracles to you, and you can think about it as well. It says this: "This is A Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. The course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear. But what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. This course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God." Basically, what this is saying is that all there is love. And this is not the love that we experience as an emotion in the world, like the special relationships we have, how we love people. This is a love that I don't think we can fathom because we're not in reality with the Godhead or with God. So this is simply something the Course does not aim to teach. It doesn't aim to teach us about love. What it's doing is trying to get us to undo all the ego's blocks it's put in place that are blocking love's presence. And just like it says in this line, the opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. What that is basically saying is fear does not exist because the only thing that exists is love in God, which is why nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. So I hope that makes sense. But I love to use this as a foundation because when you're reading A Course in Miracles, for those of you that read it or practice the workbook, knowing this is so key as you read the entire text because the text reads kind of like an art form. It's like poetry almost. It's really speaking to us on the level of content, not the level of form in the world or not the level of the body. It's coming to us on the level of the mind where we have access to the decision maker within us that can decide if we're going to see through the eyes of the ego's thought system or if we're going to wake up, rise above the battleground that we think we're in, and choose the Holy Spirit as our teacher to undo or wake up from this whole mess. And that's why I'm talking today about liberating your mind, bringing illusions to truth. So before we can get to how we can bring illusions to the truth, let's look at how the world is constantly reinforcing the dream. It's constantly reinforcing that the world is real, that there is meaning to it. It's constantly reinforcing it in a multitude of ways. But if you just look at the statement, bringing truth to the illusion, because this is what religion is doing. It's basically what science is doing and most spiritual teachings are doing. Bringing truth to illusions doesn't make any sense because illusions aren't real. So how can we bring something that's real, which would be the Godhead or God or reality as the Course explains it, how can we bring something real into a world that isn't real? So if we're just conceptually thinking about it, and again, this is not something we feel yet, we're just looking at it through our mind, it's impossible. It's a fallacy. You can't bring truth into something that's false, right? But the world is going to do a number of things to make us believe that God created the world, right? And I'm not asking you to believe this. I'm just simply showing you what the Course in Miracles is saying. And maybe it resonates with you and maybe it doesn't. Maybe you also have questions about some of these principles of religion or even in the metaphysics and consciousness realm. Maybe you too are asking these same things. And I just don't hear a lot of discussion on this because I'm kind of taking this beyond the world a little bit, which we can't prove. But at least the discussion is there. I like the discussion about it. And then when you discuss it, it doesn't seem so scary. It doesn't seem so fearful. But one thing that the world does to reinforce the dream is create religions. And there are many, many religions all over the world. And it doesn't matter what religion you're looking at, all of them pretty much state that God created the world. You know, in the Bible, immediately in Genesis, God created the world in 7 days. He took rest upon the seventh, something along those lines. Not only did God create this world, this magnificent world that we see, he also created you as a separate individual self or soul. And you have a specific role to play, and you're supposed to abide by all of his rules. If you do the things that God sees as valid or worthy, right, then you'll enter his kingdom. If you've been a so-called good person, or you're not a sinner, or all the ways in which religion wants to teach. Then for all of the people who sin and do horrible things to other people in the world, there's a place for them too, right? There's hell, that you're going to burn in hell, that God's going to damn you to hell. Immediately within the religious framework, there is division already, and that you're trying to achieve this good personhood. And who knows what that is, right? God's the one making the last judgment, so we really don't know. Even in the first book of Genesis, it appears as if God is saying to us, don't eat from the tree of knowledge, which is the tree of good and evil, right? If you read in Genesis, it explains There's actually two trees. There's the tree of life, and then there's the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And God specifically says, do not eat the apple or don't eat the fruit from that tree. Now, I did a show on this a while back, talking about the symbols of the Garden of Eden. You can go back and scroll through, do a search, and just say symbols of the garden, and the serpent Kundalini, I think was the title. But looking at Genesis as a symbol, why would the all-knowing real God, the all-encompassing Godhead of capital Love, why would it be said that you shouldn't take the fruit or eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil? And it seems that represents duality. Don't go believing in duality because it isn't real, and it'll send you into a whole slew of problems. Mental illness, basically, right? It'll send us into insanity. And in Genesis, it says that Adam goes to sleep. He goes fast asleep. The rib is taken, Eve's created, and blah, blah, blah. The rest of the thing unfolds. And I don't know if Adam ever woke up. So you could look at the symbol there and said, we're fast asleep, dreaming that we ate the apple from the tree and we did a whole belief into a made-up reality of good and evil. It's possible. It's sitting right there in Genesis. Now, most of the time it's created literally. That's another viewpoint. And A Course in Miracles is kind of pointing to this. It's pointing to the fact that why would a God even say that you can't eat from that tree? Because there's no tree. There is no world of good and evil in God's eyes. So the whole thing is a fallacy on itself. That would be the position of A Course in Miracles. And remember, as we're going today, I'm simply stating the position of the Course. It's not my position. It's just what A Course in Miracles is saying. So we have religion that's reinforcing this all the time, bringing God into the world, that God made the world. We could blame God then for all of our problems, right? How many of you have had something horrible happen in your life? How many of you have had a traumatic event? You've lost a loved one suddenly. Something was ripped from you. You lost your whole life. And you did what? Blamed God. Why would God do this? Why would that loving God create this for me? Why would God have a nuclear war? Why would God kill millions of people in war? You see, it doesn't add up, right? It never adds up. And then people will say, oh, well, God has a bigger plan. I don't know. Maybe he does. I don't know. It just seems like a little bit of a crazy plan. Another area that, and I mentioned this before, that reinforces the dream, even though it's hiding under the illusion that it isn't, is science and metaphysics. Really searching for the God code, the God gene, the DNA gene, looking for consciousness and the essence of life itself. And some of that could be true, right? The reality that we know here with a lowercase r, that is what we know. We know the world of illusions. We know this world that is separate from God. So according to science or metaphysics, if they're saying consciousness is what we are, maybe there's some truth to that in the dream, that that's what we're doing here in the dream. One of the things that A Course in Miracles would not agree with is that spirit is not matter. That spirituality has nothing to do with form. And science and metaphysics are turning it into form by saying the atom, which is the basic building block of matter, and they're tying that into this world and this physical reality. Nothing wrong with that. That does appear to be what's happening. The question that I'm posing is that really God? And I'm taking it beyond the world. Is there a truth with a capital T that lies outside of everything we know to be true? And within science and metaphysics especially, you hear this word co-creators, that we're all co-creating with the divine, or we're co-creating with consciousness itself. And it certainly appears that way, but that's the key word, appears. That appears to be what's happening. But is that God? And I'm going to leave that for you to decide. Is that God, or is that just energy while we're here? Is that just us manifesting our dream into reality? Again, key word, dream. What A Course in Miracles says is we're dreaming. And within the dream, is it possible that we can manifest what we want into our reality? Probably. But is that the real reality? Or is that just the world of illusions? So, whether you hold a belief in religion or you have in the past, or maybe you're more science based, you believe in evolution, to me, it seems like these are one and the same thing because they still fall under A Course in Miracles premise that this whole world is a dream. Whether it was created by a god or scientifically we're evolving, it's still in the dream. It's not really the Godhead. Science does a good job, right? When they say, oh, the universe and all the galaxies and solar systems, because we believe that this universe is so vast and huge, it must be created by God. And that's sort of the belief, right? That we all probably have within us, that this is such a miraculous, vast universe. When I was a very small child, maybe like 4th, 5th grade, I remember learning about space, and I remember reading in class one day about stars. And the teachers teaching us about, well, stars are made of these types of gases, and they're trillions of miles away. We've never even been to one. And immediately, my critical thinker goes, how do we know what a star is made of if we've never been there? We can't even get there, and we're assuming that's what it is. These things hit me as a young kid. They still hit me today. And I think about this when I think of who we are underneath everything that we believe to be true is, what are we really? Do we even know? That childlike curiosity that we all have is still within each and every one of us to really explore outside the walls and the conditioning that has been put upon us by the ego thought system and by society as a whole. And you could even argue the collective. Like I said just a minute ago, whether you believe in creation by a god or you're more into the science aspect of things and evolution, the Course is basically saying it's all wrong. It's all hogwash. The only truth is God. Personally, what I love about A Course in Miracles is the simplicity behind it. I frequently refer to the complicated mind and how complicated we've made the world. This is just such a breath of fresh air. For those of you that feel that same way, it's just freeing, isn't it? It's so freeing to go, oh, I've just been believing in something that isn't really true. And the power of that belief is so huge. I don't think we even can comprehend the magnitude of it. And how do we undo it? How do we get out of the game? And the Course is really stating that you're in a game. You are literally playing a game, like a little playground down here in a made-up world. And the way that this gets reinforced, like I said, is through religion, through science and metaphysics, but it's also reinforced to us every moment of every day when we see with our body's eyes, we see separation, right? Every time you move through the world, you see separation. You see good and evil. You see us versus them. You see right versus wrong. We all see this. We all want to be right. We're making the other person wrong. And this is the temptation that the ego puts right in front of us every moment of every day. And the second we grab a hold of it and believe that we're right and the other person is wrong, we are in that system. We are believing in the dream, and we're bringing the truth to illusions instead of the other way around and undoing the whole thing. That's a really powerful thing because everything in the world reinforces our separation and our conflict with each other. Very few people and very few things of the world are actually teaching to look beyond what you see. They're not teaching that we actually all share the same thing. We share the belief in the separation, but we also share the undoing of it. That we can accept the Holy Spirit as our teacher and we can undo this whole thing and bring the illusion back home, back to truth with a capital T. And that's what I want to get at right now. How can we do that? How can we liberate the mind? How do we get home? If we're all just wandering around in a made-up world with no real direction, right? And then we're reincarnating over and over again just for the sake of experiencing ourselves over and over. How do we break this whole cycle? Well, the first thing that makes sense, and the only thing that makes any sense, is to look at it. The very first thing is we must acknowledge our belief in the illusion. The only way to start undoing something, like an addict, right? The only way to stop drinking heavily or stop using drugs or stop overeating or stopping anything is you have to look at it. We can't be in denial anymore. We have to see that this whole thing is an illusion. And once you acknowledge that you're living in an illusion, and you can see all these things that show you that, nothing makes any sense. nothing really holds any water. There's no real firm truth to anything we see, right? Nothing can be proven. Then you acknowledge, just like an addict, and I say that we're all sort of addicts, right? We're addicted to the belief in the separation. We're addicted to this world. And if we want to move beyond it, the next thing we have to do is to look at the system that we believe in that created it in the first place, which is the insanity of the ego's thought system, which is exactly what A Course in Miracles is teaching, to look at the system that you believe in order to undo it. In order to hand it over to Spirit, we have to see what we're doing. And the things that we see happen in this world to get us to believe in this thought system are in our everyday experiences. Turn on the television, let's just look at politics. What is that system showing? We're divided immediately. This side's bad, this side's good, and it's constant. The battle is constant. Look at it on the global level. This country's good, this country's bad. We're the good guys, they're the bad guys. They're killing, we're saving. You see what I'm getting at? Look in your special relationships, your relationships with your closest people in your life, or through colleagues, it doesn't matter. Look at your special relationships and see where you want to tell the person that you're having an argument with they're wrong and you're right. It's a constant reinforcement of the dream. Even in therapy, right? And I think therapy is great, but therapy does the same thing. Labels everybody with certain disorders. They're in the wrong. They raised you wrong. Your environment raised you incorrectly, and you are the innocent victim. It doesn't matter where you turn in this world. You can see how the dream is reinforced, how we're reinforcing truth is trying to come into the illusion. But when you flip this on its head and you say, oh my gosh, I am no different than any of those people that I am condemning, any of those people that I am saying are wrong, when you can say, underneath your argument, I mean, you're having the argument physically, but underneath this battle that you might be having with someone else, you can see that you are just like the other person. You actually are as insane as they are, because we're both believing that we're here. Do you see where I'm going? When you can do that, you're no longer in a hierarchy of illusions. You're no longer saying, well, I'm better than this person because I am doing things the correct way and they aren't getting it yet, which we do all the time. Everybody does this. There's people you meet in your life who are like, well, they're clueless, right? They're so clueless, and I mean, I'm miles beyond them. When you cut that out in your head and you say, underneath whatever is happening on the surface, I'm no different than this person because I'm equally believing in the dream just like they are. And when I do that, I can therefore see the correction for the error. I'm going to join in my mind, and I don't mean physically. Remember, A Course in Miracles is coming to us on the level of content, not the level of form. You don't actually have to say anything to the other person. But in your mind's eye, you are seeing this person as your equal, even though the world is going to tell you that's not true. But in the mind of God, it's true that all of us are home in reality. So when you have a disagreement with somebody, or you are having issues with some global catastrophe, or the environment, or whatever you're worried about, because it doesn't matter the scale. The scale's irrelevant in the eyes of spirit. Now, the world will say that scale matters, but it doesn't. You can be working with one other person and understand and wake up. Or you could see an environmental issue or a global issue and wake up. So remember, the form doesn't matter. It's the content underneath it and the opportunity for you to say, I'm joining with this situation, rising above the battleground, and realizing that I'm equally insane with this other party or this other group or this other situation. And now I'm asking Spirit to guide me. So a few things to remember is maybe you create this space in your house for self-reflection. And I mean it, like create a cozy corner where you can sit, let go of everything, relax, and then when you have difficult situations in your life, you've created a tranquil environment that you can actually start looking at, and maybe you start applying, bringing these illusions to the truth instead of trying to justify that your every action was the right one. Not that you can't do that. You can absolutely still do all the things you would do in the world. But when we're getting at the depth of undoing, when we're really talking about waking up and going to the depths of this, we're looking deeper than what's going on the surface. And you're saying, one, I'm willing to acknowledge my belief in the illusion. I see that I'm deciding this every moment of every day. Who cares how long it's been going on in the past? I'm deciding it now. And in the now moment, I can change it, right? I can change how I'm seeing it. Then, number two, you look at the system you believe in, which is clearly we're all believing in this nutty, insane ego thought system that's baiting us at every turn. It's throwing these temptations out so that we separate ourselves from everyone around us. And we see that we're doing that. When you see it, then you can start applying this in your practical life. You can start actually doing it in your life. So how can you do it in your life? And I want to give the example of prayer because I know a lot of people pray. And how do you typically pray in the world? Most of us are asking God for special favors, right? Please let me land this gig. Please let my loved ones be safe. Please let me heal from this ailment or this disease. Please bring me lots and lots of money so I don't have to starve and suffer. It's kind of what we do, right? We're bargaining with God. It's like we're doing a little negotiating. If you give me this, God, I'll be a really good person. I'll be really nice to my husband. So what I'm getting at is using prayer and flipping prayer that we're normally used to doing on its head and saying, I'm not going to ask for anything specific in the world, but I'm going to ask Spirit every time I'm in a situation that I'm baffled by, that I hand over everything I believe to be true about this situation, all of the illusions of it, and I hand it over to the Holy Spirit. And I ask Spirit, Spirit, let me see this through your eyes of clarity, because I am not seeing it. It's like you're allowing yourself to break free from the temptation to be right, from the temptation to separate and stay separate from the Godhead. And that's really what it's boiling down to. So use that in your life. Transform prayer in a way that is simply asking for spiritual guidance and higher sight, not physical sight, not the sight of the body's eyes, but higher self with a capital H and a capital S sight. And this is as simple as it gets. And you can apply this to every single encounter in your entire life. It does not have to be complicated. You know what? You're going to get a lot of practice because we all have disagreements. We all are rattled. We're all offended on some level with somebody else's opinion of how they think the world should be, and you think it should be some other way. But anytime you feel that angst inside of you, immediately go within and say, oh, there it is again. I am feeling it. I want to separate from this person or this group and say that they're wrong and I'm right. And now I'm handing it over to you, Spirit. I'm handing it over and allowing myself to be guided to see clearly that what I see in front of me is not what I think it is. These illusory things that I'm seeing and believing in, this whole concept of a separated world is not what I believe it to be. And I'm handing it over to something greater than myself. And I'm undoing this whole thing. I'm waking up from the dream. And then when you do that, you liberate your mind. And then you lose the need to know exactly what's going to happen in the world. You lose it completely. You let go of it. You cut the cord and you're freeing yourself. It doesn't matter because the only truth with a capital T is home in God. That's it. And you can apply it practically. And you can do the workbook that the Course in Miracles is offering to reinforce it in your daily life. When you get rattled, when you get offended, and when you get really upset at what somebody is doing to you, and it is upsetting, right? We're emotional human beings. You acknowledge it first. Acknowledge what's happened. Yes, God, here I go. I'm feeling this way. Get it all out. And then you're acknowledging, I'm seeing it through the eyes of the ego. And then realize, oh my gosh, there's another way to do this. I can hand it over. I can start, instead of praying for things to be differently, I can say, what am I missing here, Spirit? How can I do it differently? What am I learning from this opportunity or this situation that I'm in? So I hope this helps you. because it doesn't have to be something that's so over the top, complicated. You don't have to have a list of to-dos to be some spiritual person. In fact, all of this is done totally on your own, within your own mind. You don't have to tell anybody. You don't have to broadcast it across the media. You just do it in your life. When you encounter things that are disturbing you, you just put it into practice. And maybe that sanctuary, that health oasis that you are working on creating for yourself, you can turn it into not only a health oasis, but this is mental healing, right? This is spiritual healing. This is a spiritual oasis for yourself. So this physical place that you create to go reflect, to connect, to see where you can start seeing everything as equal is a symbol of your path home. That place that you create is only a symbol. Remember, everything in the dream is an illusion. So even the places we're creating are illusory, but they are symbolic and they are reminding us of home. So use them to your advantage, whatever that means for you. And then once you get comfortable in this space where you create and allow yourself to really hand these illusions over to truth, then you will do it in your everyday life. You'll create the sacred space in you and you take it with you wherever you go. And maybe you have an image of your sanctuary at home. And when you're out and you're traveling and you're rattled, you can remember that sanctuary and remember it's right with you. It's always with you. And you absolutely have the ability to liberate yourself by bringing all these illusions to the truth. And this is the awakening process. That's it for today's show. Thanks so much for listening. If it resonated, please share, follow, and drop a review with your takeaways. It really means a lot. Visit my website at livelikeeden.com to subscribe for weekly reminders and blogs, or sign up for a free 30-minute consult to explore one-on-one guidance sessions if you're really struggling in Awakening's darkness. Take my Awakening quiz to get a personal podcast playlist that meets you exactly where you're at. See you next week for another deep dive.